Hi, I'm Chris Aldrich of bafosacco.com, and this is the second tutorial in a series of tutorials for using WordPress as your IndieWeb platform of choice. We've already set up a WordPress installed, and in this tutorial, we're going to install one of two IndieWeb-friendly themes into our WordPress site. And we'll also talk a little bit about what makes these two themes special. And in a great sense, it's primarily Microformats 2 version 2 support that these themes have that are going to make them give us a lot more power and flexibility when it comes to using our WordPress website within the IndieWeb universe. So let's take a quick look at the basic site we installed already. Just got my basic name and title, a default post that came with WordPress out of the box. So what we'd like to do is install one of two themes. I'm going to give you an option of two. The first is SemPress by Matthias Pfefferly out of Germany. It's available in the WordPress.org theme directory. It's also got, I'll mention, a handful of child themes that you can select from as well off in the future. The other theme we're going to recommend here, also in the theme directory, is Independent Publisher by RomDev. This theme was built within the last 2 years, and initially it was built off by itself and then added a lot of really strong IndieWeb support after it was built, whereas SemPress was built from the ground up with IndieWeb use specifically in mind. And that's one of the reasons we're recommending both of these two. So most of the tools and plugins we'll be using and adding in the future will really easily and dovetail well with both of these two themes and allow a lot of really good back and forth communication from an IndieWeb perspective. So let's take a look at installing those two quickly. It doesn't take very much. Let's go to our WP admin interface. We're going to go to the Appearance tab, click on Themes. We'll notice here that there are three themes that are installed by default. In this case, 2015, the 2016 theme, and the 2017 theme, which is activated. So when we're looking at our site, we're seeing the 2017 theme appear. We're going to click Add New so that we can add the two themes we were looking at before. In this case, we're going to find SemPress, and we're going to install it. I'm going to specifically use it, so I'm going to go ahead and click the Activate button. But if you'd like, you can instead install the Independent Publisher theme. So you do that by clicking Add New, to search for Independent Publisher, and then install that. You can go back to your main Themes tab, and we'll now see there are 5 themes installed, and I have activated the SemPress theme. If you wanted the Independent Publisher theme, hover on that and click Activate. But what you'll notice, if you now go back to your site and view it, we'll refresh the page, we'll see that the entire look and feel of our website has just drastically changed. All the data that's in it is still exactly the same, which is a very powerful feature of how WordPress handles themes and separates the data in your website from the look and feel of your website. So with the click of a few buttons, you can drastically change the look and feel of your website, almost as if you were changing from one pair of clothes into another. So this is a simple and lovely feature. But I'll mention just for a moment or two why we're using one of these two themes instead of any one of the hundreds of thousands of others that are available. And within the IndieWeb, there are a lot of features and functionalities for communicating both between websites and even interacting with your own website that rely on having really strong support for the web standard of microformats. Now, WordPress core, the core code and functionality of what WordPress allows, has Microformats version 1, Microformats built into it, and many themes will then supplement that with a bunch of additional microformats that core is not able to easily inject into a website based on which theme it's using. But there is a newer, more updated version called Microformats version 2 that many in the IndieWeb have been using for quite some time, and that add a lot more freedom and flexibility. Certainly there is some backwards compatibility so that if your theme is only supporting version 1, you probably are still able to communicate back and forth in an easy way. But let's take, for example, in one of the next tutorials, we'll be adding the Web Mentions plugin, which will allow you to communicate back and forth from one site to another. So let's say on my website I post an article and someone else responds. My WordPress install is going to go back and look at their post, and it's going to try and find the author of the comment. It's going to try and find their photo, maybe the title of their response, and the body, as well as any photos of their response. So for my site to do that easily and to do it well and display it properly, it's going to rely to some extent on their website also supporting the microformat standard so that it can find all of the appropriate data and pull it back to show an actual comment. So in fact, if we click on the comment on this one, you'll see that here's the primary post up here, and then below that there is one commenter who has a horrible default name of a WordPress commenter. Here's their photo, and then here's the comment they wrote. Now, to have this display properly, it helps if the other site who's commenting on our post is properly presenting microformats. So let's look at one or two little snippets of what microformats are to give us a flavor. But the nice part is if you've got a theme that handles them out of the box, in a general sense, you really don't need to worry about these code level issues. But since it's fun to look at kind of what's going on behind the hood, we'll look at a microformat setup that essentially allows you to create a business card on your website. So there is an HCard creator on the microformats.org website that will take in data, your first name, your last name, the company you work for, your address, your phone number, typically the types of details that would be found on a business card or very often on a website. I've put in the fake name Marcus Aurelius here, and you can see a quick preview of what the details would look like on one's website down here. And then you have the actual code written out that creates and causes this to render properly. And I'll mention that this page is using the Microformats version 1 setup that WordPress core and many themes support. So we can I'll add a few bits of data. Let's say that Marcus Aurelius works for IndieWeb, and as I type, you'll notice that the preview is showing the title of, or the organization he works for, and then up here is that same organization, but it's wrapped with a special class that has the microformat name org. And similarly, if let's say he works at 123 Happy Street, Beverly Hills, California. This is 9021. You'll see that these pieces are adding the town, the street address. So here the micro format that appears on the street address is actually logically street address. Locality is the city or town or region or area that they're in. Region, typically for parts of the Americas at least, is the state. And then a postal code or zip code is wrapped with the postal code micro format. So this will give you, if you were building a business card to put on your website, these are some of the micro formats that you'd want to have around your name and address so that other websites can come and look at your page and pick out these individual pieces of data as they're needed or necessary. Now, in the Microformats version 2, there's an example in the HCard page for the Microformats wiki that uses the proper newer classes. So in this case, it's H-card is the top level container. And within that container, there are the P name for the name of the person. There's a microformats class called uEmail that includes an email, the P street address, P locality, P country name. I think in looking at this example, it's hopefully relatively obvious what these microformats classes are being wrapped around. In this case, the uPhoto is in an image tag that links to the actual photo of the user that this HCard is about. So in a very simple sense, it's a business card that has a few pieces of machine readable data on it that indicates the name of the person, where they work, their address, maybe their phone number, so on and so forth. But there are microformats classes for both pages and posts, so that, let's say, if you write a post on your website, there will be microformats that indicate which part of the page is the title of the page, who the author is, the body of the content of the page, as well as any photos that are related to it appropriately. And that lets your website communicate a little more easily with other websites, particularly when it's using things like WebMention or micropub tools and so on and so forth, back and forth. So for our simple case, we're going to recommend either SemPress or independent publisher as the two themes you use here. That way everything should ideally just work out of the box as you're building. And then sometime off in the future, if you decide you want to switch to a different theme, and in my case, I'm actually using the 2016 theme or a slightly modified version of it that adds a couple of additional microformats that the theme left off. But you can use other themes, but it helps to know what may go wrong with those themes and what kind of work you may need to do to kind of bring them into compliance so that when you're interacting with other indie websites out there, you're getting the results that you expect. There is a WordPress themes page on the IndieWeb Wiki that has a few other additional options and ideas, as well as some child themes you might wish to use. If you're a developer, there's a WordPress development page with some brainstorming ideas for better supporting themes within the WordPress IndieWeb community. But ideally, at the end of this, we've really covered a tidbit of what microformats are, a little bit of what they do and why they're important. But we've installed, or hopefully you've installed, either the SemPress theme or the independent publisher theme on your site. And we should be ready to go to begin installing a small fleet of plugins that will allow you better interaction and ownership of your identity on your WordPress site in the coming tutorials. So for now, again, this is Chris Aldrich at bafosacco.com. We'll see you next time.